Hello, I'm Jason Clark from Clark Customs. This is Max Cotton's LS3 Ps13. This week I'm going to talk to you about the cooling system, what we've done and the reasons behind it. So at the front of the car we have three coolers. We have the water radiator, the oil cooler and the power steering cooler. With the radiator, it's a factory fitment S14 Mission motor radiator, and we've modified the outlet and inlet to suit the engine layout, and we've also added a bleed line that takes any air from the top of the engine into the radiator so that it can be blown out from the overflow. And we've also added dividers into the top and bottom tanks, and what this does is it causes it to be a triple pass. So rather than get hot and cold spots on the radiator, it forces the water to come in and to go down to the bottom, up in the middle, and then back down at this end, and it back to the engine. Now, with that, the main benefit is you use the full cooling capacity of the radiator, which does reduce temperatures. The alternative is to use a bigger radiator, but we don't have the space. Then the oil cooler is a large Mishimoto dual pass. Now that lets the oil come in at one side, through the car, and back out the other. And then the power steering cooler is simply to cool the return oil from the rack, because in drifting especially, you go from one full lock to the other in quite rapid succession, which generates a lot of heat in the oil. You can get away without using one with an electric power steering pump like we are, but it's better to be safe than sorry, so I still always like to run them. Now, you may have noticed they're all sort of stacked on top of each other, and the main reason for that is in the rule book for the British drifting, you can't have coolers outside of the chassis rails, which are these points here. So everything's got to be within there. And the reason for that is when you're drifting, the front of the car isn't always at the front of the car. When you're on angle, the corners become the front. So if you were to have an accident, the first thing to get hit would be an oil cooler on one of the corners. So as a result of that, we've got to put them in the middle.
Moving on to some of the smaller jobs that I've done. So you may have seen the internal clutch master cylinder that I've made, and that means that there isn't a clutch master in the engine bay. So we have a remote pot that feeds the master. So we've now got a fully working clutch, and we have a custom throttle cable to operate the 98mm throttle body. And we've also, I normally like to move the coil packs from the engine away from heat, because engine bay temperatures can rise quite high and you do have some issues with heat soak on hot days especially. So I normally like to move them away from the engine to the sides, but due to the engine bay layout, there's not really a suitable position to put them without exposing them to even more heat if they were here near the exhausts, or putting them, say, inside the car, which is bad for maintenance basically, and being able to fault find. So rather than move them, I've spaced them up 10mm so we generate some airflow under the coil packs, which you can see there's a gap between them. Normally the coil packs are resting on the heads. We've also heat wrapped the manifolds, which has come from Old Hull Performance, which to be fair is really good heat wrap. It's not strandy and fiberglassy like a lot of the heat wraps that you can buy are, and it's really nice to work with, and I imagine it's going to do a great job. We've also heat-proofed the oil lines and anything that's near the exhausts. We've now got fully plumbed in electric power steering, which is here. Now this is a Mercedes pump. It's not one I've used before personally, but it's been recommended it's a good style of pump to use, so give it a try. And again, the lines are heat proofed. We are awaiting some heat proofing to do this side manifold. And we've also changed the standard plugs out for these Taylor's 8mm silicone ones. Now, the reason we've done that is because in here, the standard leads touch the manifolds, and that is, it were a recipe for disaster. It would have melted the leads and created lots of problems. So, as a solution to that, we've made up these custom leads. So that about sums up what I've done since the last update. The next job will be the wiring loom. So I've got the engine loom to do first, and then the car body loom, which once that's done, we should see some running. Don't know. Well, fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly and we start the first time and it's ready to hit the dyno.